This is Raven David Tierney. We have in the studio with us Mickey Guys. Welcome to the program, Mickey. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
And the subject that we'll be talking about is the case of your son. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're here for and what this is all about?
I'm here to talk about opiate addiction and the epidemic that's going on in our community right now. My son was one of the fatalities of that opiate addiction, and I'm here to discuss and try to educate about this disease. And it is a disease, by the way. Some people think that it's a weakness or a moral issue, but it is a disease, and we want to take the stigma, the loneliness, and the shame out of it and bring it to the forefront so that our son's death is not in vain. And so we made a commitment to him that we would do that. And so that's why I'm here.
Now, we know there was a very good feature-length story in the January 25th edition of the Lowell Sun. It was a Sunday, a front-page story about Zachary, and he was a fine young man.
Zach was a great kid. He was a funny kid. He was a great athlete. He loved baseball, loved hockey, did well in school. And that all changed when he started to get mixed up with opiates. And he was a good hockey player that got hurt, twisted his ankle playing hockey, and somehow one of his friends got a hold of a Percocet and gave him a Percocet to ease the pain. And that's, I think, where his story began. And we didn't realize, his mother and I didn't realize, what that actually was going to turn into. It turned into a horrific disease and trouble that he just couldn't get out of.
Let me ask you a question. He took one Percocet one time that was given to him by a friend to ease the pain of his ankle not healing. How did he go on then to get additional Percocets after that?
Well, there's many ways you can get Percocets or opiates on the street. You can get them on the street. You can get them. Most of them are prescribed by doctors. I don't know quite when he got tied up into daily use, but he did break his ankle in the beginning of his senior year. Did break his ankle playing hockey again, and had to have surgery and got prescribed Percocets again. And that's when he really took off. His behavior started to change. His look started to change. He started to lose weight. His mood was not the same. He wasn't that funny kid anymore. He got tied up into something that he just couldn't get out of. And we weren't aware of it. And so one of the things that I'd like to do today is I'd like to bring it out into the open and try to get rid of the shame, the embarrassment that goes with the stigma of this disease. And alcohol and drugs are a big part of today's youth. And with this opiate addiction and epidemic that's going on, we're going to lose a generation of young kids here.
But a lot of this starts off, as it did with Zachary, very innocently. Very innocently. I mean, he didn't set out to say, oh, I think I'm going to take this to just zone out or something.
No. I mean, kids experiment. That's obvious. As kids, we all experimented with alcohol and maybe pot, marijuana, but not to the extent where you experiment with opiates. These things are so strong and addictive right off the bat. If you take them 2 or 3 times, you're addicted. Wow. They're addicted before they realize it, and you can't get out of it. It takes a lot of time and effort, and they really have to work at it because it is work. Zachary went through many detoxes and 30-day programs, and we tried whatever we could do, to get him in a program, one after another.
Now, let's talk a little bit about detox and the longer-term recovery. The detox is usually about a week long, thereabouts, and it's usually a hospital kind of setting where you're locked down and you're controlled for that entire 7-day period. They get you clean, basically.
Right. It just gets you clean. It doesn't do anything else. Doesn't do anything else except for get you clean safely, because they are coming off a narcotic. They have to be withdrawn slowly. So within the 5 to 7 days that they're in a detox, after that, you're on your own. You have to find your own 30-day program. You have to make the substance abuser has to call and make their own arrangements. We can't call. The parents can't call for them. The facility doesn't call for them. They have to call themselves and make their own arrangements. Now, we can help them out in the background. You can go through your insurance companies, but there just isn't enough beds available.
Right.
So if you don't find a bed on your own, you're back out in the street.
I'm a little surprised to hear that the individual themselves has to go about procuring their own longer-term recovery.
Yes.
That seems like, I mean, for a kid, like your kid,
Right.
it's kind of it's a real burden. I mean,
Right. They give them the phone numbers,
Yeah.
and they give them the beds
Uh-huh.
that should be available. But when you call and they say, "Oh, there's a waiting list of 2 weeks," what are you going to do for 2 weeks? Once you get out, they're not safe any longer.
Exactly.
They've only been detoxed for 5 to 7 days. They still have the same habit that they went in with. They're just now having to deal with it again on their own. They are a little bit clean. They feel a little bit better after the 5 to 7 days, but that's not a long-term solution.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately you're either in a holding cell somewhere until you can find a 30-day facility, or they cut you loose.
You're sort of in a no man's land there for a while.
Exactly. And when they turn 18, it's even worse, because then you're treated as an adult.
Now, you said this affects, the entire family. In what ways did it affect the rest of your family members? And
Well-
who are your family members, or who were the family members at the time?
Well, Zach has a sister, Taylor, and a brother, Nicholas, and his mom, Louise Griffin, and myself, and also has a stepmom, Sue Doherty. And it affected us in ways that you would never think of. First of all, when they need money, they're going to get it from any place they can find it, and usually that means the home. So they start stealing money, they start stealing things and selling them at pawn shops, whatever they can do to get their next fix. And it becomes to the point where opiates become too expensive and they turn to heroin because it's cheaper. And Zachary ended up turning to heroin when he couldn't get enough money, I suppose, and the dealer showed him how to shoot up.
Wow.
And so he started shooting up. And this was my son, who was a great athlete, was really good at baseball and hockey, loved hockey, and he just abandoned that all. He abandoned it, and it became secondary to him.
Will you talk a little bit about some of the symptoms that you saw, the changes in his behavior? Say he became more quiet, he became disinterested in his studies. Did he have? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, he started to lose weight.
Okay.
And by this time, we knew something was going on. We just didn't know the extent of it. And he started losing weight. His appearance started to change. He started caring less about what he looked like. Now, this is a guy who had a matching belt, matching shoes, matching hat. He wanted to look good when he went out.
Yeah.
And that all went away. It became secondary to him. And the most important thing was where he was going to get his next fix so he could get high. And his behavior started to change. When he didn't get it, when he was sick, he was very moody, sad, quiet. It's a very lonely disease, and even though we were there, he was in the middle of it, and he couldn't get out of it, and I'm sure he was scared and didn't know what to do. And so we tried to do our best to try to help him, and we're no experts by any means. I'm here to talk about the epidemic. I don't have solutions. I just want to tell you, and I want to tell the people out there what we went through. I'm not an expert by any means, but I did live it, and it is horrendous, and we want to make it aware, bring it out to the public, and make sure that people don't have to go through what we went through.
So it's education.
Correct.
Awareness. Now, there was a facility close by. There was at one time. Wasn't there one over at Tewksbury State Hospital? Why wasn't you apply there?
Yes, the Tewksbury State Hospital, the detox closed in 2010 and for lack of funding, and that's one of the problems that we have. It's since reopened in 2013, but at somewhat lesser bed capacity than it used to be. Why? Because of lack of funding again. So here we are, our epidemic's going on, and we're losing beds, we're losing facilities, they're shutting down. And we need more funding. We need more funding from the state, federal level, and they need to raise the awareness within Congress to make sure that we can get the funding that we need.
There's a sad irony here, too, because Zach began in 2010, and in July 19th of 2013, he had already passed away.
He passed away.
But, those dates correspond to the time that Tewksbury closed down, and then they reopened again.
Exactly.
And
And it's a local facility that maybe he could have went to, but there are many other facilities we tried to get him into. We even ended up sending him to Florida.
Now, he went to Florida more than once, did he?
We went to Florida about 3 times.
Really?
And some of the stays were longer than others. He bounced around a few different facilities in Florida. I tried to get him in a facility in Massachusetts, and we there was no beds available. So we made a phone call, and within a day we had a bed in Florida. We put him on a plane and sent him down. It was the only place we could find, and he was not safe out on the streets. So we had to find someplace for him.
Now, when he's out on the street, what other support mechanism is there available to someone who's like on the street in that sort of no man's land there for a period of time before they get into a bed or another facility to continue their recovery?
They're on their own to somewhat. There's AA and NA meetings that they can go to, and they should go to in order to enhance their recovery. But most of the kids at that stage, they're not looking for AA and NA. They consider AA meetings a bunch of old men and women that are with gray hair that are sitting there, and they don't relate. So a lot of them go to NA meetings where there are more young kids, and some of them are looking for recovery, and some of them are court-ordered to be there, and they're not looking for recovery. So you have to watch out for those type of kids, and you have to be with the winners. You can't be in on the fringes. You have to go in full force. So if you're not really looking for recovery, you're not going to find it.
That's right. So some recovery meetings, what you're saying is some recovery meetings are more appropriate or more healthy than others.
Right. So you try to find the ones that are good for you. Not every meeting is a good meeting, and they have to find the ones that work for them. And
I recall hearing my second wife, who went away because of alcoholism, and in fact she died in 2009. She said, "I don't want to be in a room full of drunks."
Right.
And she would never admit that she herself had the problem. I think the first step is admitting you have a problem. Once you realize that you're part of that population.
Exactly.
And there's no shame in being there because, as you say, it is a disease.
Right. You would say there's no shame in being there, but there is shame, and that's the problem. That's what we're here to do. We're here to raise awareness that it is a disease. It's not a moral issue. It's not a weakness. It's not a, why don't they just stop? Why can't they just stop? Don't they know it's bad for them? Well, yeah, they do, but they're so far in it, they just can't get out of it.
The door is tremendous.
Right.
The door is tremendous.
It's unbelievable.
Now, you've taken this experience and you're turning it around, and you've formed, why don't you tell us a little bit about the golf tournament that's coming up?
Well, we formed a foundation for Zachary, Zach's team, and we try to raise funds to create awareness, and we've partnered with the Plymouth House in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and we raise funds to send deserving people there to get recovery. And it's an extensive 5-week program that costs a lot of money that most people can't afford, but we provide scholarships to people. And we try to do our part to save one person at a time. Last year we sent 8 people through the Plymouth House, and it has changed their lives. And when you think about it, we said it's a family disease. So you say, well, gee, you only sent 8 people through. Well, you know what? Those 8 people have families. Those 8 people have friends, and we've literally positively changed the life of hundreds of people with just those 8 people. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to attack it on a ground level, one person at a time. What we really need is we really need more support, more funding from the state and federal levels. And I know we're getting some help. Tom Golden and Dave Nagel have done a great job, our state reps, in trying to get more funding. I think Tom Golden was really working behind the scenes to get Tewksbury State Hospital Detox open again, and he was successful in doing that along with Dave Nagel. And so we do have some help. We do have people that are aware of the problem and that are helping us. And Tom Golden and Dave Nagel came to the golf tournament and spoke at the golf tournament, and they really did a great job of raising the awareness. You could hear a pin drop when they spoke. It was unbelievable.
Tom Golden is a very dynamic person. I was at an event with him on Friday night, Budget Buddies over in Chelmsford.
Right.
So he's great.
Nice guy.
Yes, he is. Tell us more about the tournament. Now, this tournament is an annual event. Is it coming up again this year? When is it coming?
We have a tournament coming up August 24th at noontime at Four Oaks Golf Course in Draycott, Massachusetts. And last year we filled up. We also have, if you don't golf, by the way, we have a dinner afterwards that is available. Tickets are available for dinner. And I'm just going to warn people that you have to sign up early because last year many people got shut out. It was full house. The golf was full, the dinner was full, and we couldn't handle any more people at the event. So my advice is to sign up early. We're probably already more than half full on the golf, and but there's still time to sign up, so I would advise people to sign up early.
Now, this is being put on through Eventbrite.com, is that correct?
It's Eventbrite. It's
Eventbrite.
called Eventbrite, right?
Okay.
So you go to eventbrite.com, and you go to Zach's team, put Zach's team in, and then from there you can go to the golf tournament, and you can either join in golf, or you can buy tickets to the dinner, or if you want to sponsor the event, you can sponsor. There's different sponsor levels for tea sponsors, dinner sponsors, event sponsors. So you can, or you can just donate to the cause if you like. And so last year we raised about $50,000 for the event, and we partner with the Plymouth House, like I said, and they match dollar for dollar any money that we raise.
Now, we say the Plymouth House. The Plymouth is, we're talking about Plymouth, New Hampshire.
Plymouth, New Hampshire.
Not Plymouth, Mass.
No, Plymouth,
okay.
New Hampshire
Good.
is, it's right on the edge of the White Mountains, a beautiful facility. It is an extensive 5-week program, 4 to 5 week program. They learn the 12 steps. They learn how to join groups, get a sponsor, and from there we try to set them up with a halfway house in usually around the Maine area. They have a great community in Portland, Maine, of sober people, sober houses, and we try to set them up so that they can begin their recovery.
That's wonderful. By the way, folks, if you're just tuning in, we have in the studio with us Mickey Guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we're talking about the recovery program that is available. We're talking about Zach's team, zachsteam.org, and it's to raise money to help those who are in need of recovery and in need to get into a program. And this is a wonderful thing that you're doing, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, we could have there was 2 things that could have happened. We were, of course, devastated when Zach passed away, and we could have just said, well, that's that, and we tried, and that was it. But we decided that we wanted to go public with it to try to help somebody else so that they didn't have to go through this. So if we can save one person through doing this, then we've been successful. We're trying to do it one person at a time.
Now, there are other meetings that help someone who's in recovery, like NA and AA, and I think you would encourage other people to go into that as well, as a way of sustaining them along the way until they get into a more permanent or more stable recovery, I should say.
Yes. There are NA and AA meetings for the addict, the substance abuser that just is in recovery. But there are also support groups for parents, like Learn to Cope. And we went to Learn to Cope for quite a bit of time and still do. It is a support group for parents, mostly for children who are addicted and have problems with opiates.
Now, Learn to Cope meets on
Tuesdays in Tewksbury, locally, but there are many groups. Go online and look up Learn to Cope. There's many local meetings, not just in Tewksbury. There's some in Salem, Mass, and on the South Shore. Many meetings available for parents. It is a support group that's invaluable. It helps the parents get through what they're going through with people who understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's also another group called GRASS, which is Grief Recovery After Substance Passing. Unfortunately, that's a group that if you belong to, you've lost a child or a loved one to the disease of opiate abuse or alcohol, whatever substance they were using. And Louise, my ex-wife, and Zach's mom started the group, and we meet every 3rd Tuesday at the Riley School in Lowell, Massachusetts. And it's a support group for parents mostly,
grieving,
but there are siblings that come, and it is you never know what you're going to do until it happens to you. And people just don't understand what you go through when you lose a child. And there are other groups like Compassionate Friends that are support groups for parents that have lost loved ones. But the GRASP is strictly for people who lost due to substance abuse, and that's a different kind of grief that you go through than some of the other people. And you need that support group because you're lost afterwards.
Yes. Now, there is a program that was just announced recently this past week. I heard it on the news. The Gloucester Police have a program whereby if an addict turns in all his stuff down to the police station, rather than be arrested, he will be brought to a facility where he can begin his recovery and his detox.
Yes, great program.
I think it is.
By the way, the chief of police started this program, and I don't know if he'll be able to sustain it, but there's volunteers that if you come in and you want to go to a recovery program, you give them whatever needles. If you have material on you, they'll take them. They won't arrest you. They'll call a volunteer. They'll call a house, and I've guaranteed that they're going to have houses available. They have set it up with 10 or 11 different houses that they have beds available.
I also understand that if they participate, if someone willing participates in this kind of program, that they will also not end up having a criminal record as a result of it.
Right. They don't get arrested. It's strictly volunteer. You come in, you give whatever you have. If you don't have it and you just want to go to a detox, they'll send you to a detox. But they will give you help. They will not arrest you.
That's wonderful.
Great program.
We have in the studio with us Mickey Guys, who is the father of Zachary Guys, who died in 2013 as a result of a heroin overdose, as a result also of a hockey injury that he sustained while playing hockey. Tell us a little bit about, there was a movie released recently about by Mark Wahlberg, the Youth Foundation.
Yes, it's actually Jim Wahlberg, Mark's brother, but it's the Mark Wahlberg Foundation.
Yeah.
And Jim wrote and produced and directed this movie along with Michael Yeba. And it's called If Only, and it's about opiate abuse. And he premiered it in Tewksbury at the Tewksbury High School last week. And you can find it online. Look online, If Only, you can download it. It's a great half-hour movie about substance abuse that has to do with high school kids. And he showed it to the high school students at Tewksbury State Hospital, at Tewksbury High School, and he said that you could hear a pin drop.
Wow.
Not one person was moving, talking during the whole movie. It's a pretty moving experience.
And if you want to find this, you can go to www.dropthemoff.com. And the password is IfOnly2015.
Right. That dropthemoff.com is if you have excess pills, most of the people either dump them down the toilet or they throw them in the garbage. This is where you can go to drop off any excess pills that you might have, because that's one of the way that kids that can get drugs is to get it from right out of your cupboard, right out of your cabinet. Most people have either grandparents or parents that might be taking these due to some type of injury, and they just leave them in the cupboard when they're done with them. So you have to watch out. You have to be careful. That's one way that the kids can get them.
Let me ask you this as we're sort of wrapping up. In final words of advice to anyone who's listening right now, what would you recommend, or what would you have to say?
Well, my advice and what I think that parents should do is immediately contact whoever you have to contact. Don't let it go another day. Don't think it's going to go away, because it's not going to. Stop all the money. Don't give them any money, and just be diligent. There's no way that they can lick this on their own. You're going to have to help them.
Right.
And take the stigma out of it, take the shame out of it, and be a proponent for your kid.
Mickey, thank you very much for coming in and sharing your story with us.
Thank
you
you
really
for having me,
appreciate
David. I appreciate it. Thank you
and
very much.
anytime you want to come back and
great.
pump up the golf tournament, or,
Yes.
or give us a PSA on that, we'll put it out there
All
for
right.
you.
Super. That's great. I
That's
appreciate
what we're
it.
here for.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.